Welcome back to Builds Not Projects. In this week's video, we're back on the Odyssey. Finally got a box of transmission parts that are actually the correct ones, so we're going to start going back together with the transmission, get the cases put back together, get this engine all painted up nice, and slap it in the frame. So this part here is definitely the most satisfying part of the whole thing. Satisfied. Okay, so as we've been putting this together, I was kind of looking at it, and since the front hubs are already the Honda red, we're going to go ahead and pull these rear hubs off, as well as trim up this axle once we put it back together to make it so there's not much excess there. And we're going to paint these rear hubs red to match the fronts, and then that way when we get our wheels painted as well, we're going to paint those white. You'll be able to see the little bit of red hub, and they'll match front and back and just look a little better.
Figured since everything is going back together on this, we should probably paint the wheels too. So we're going to paint these bad boys white.
Well, after painting in the shop, decided to step outside for some fresh air, but the air's not very fresh. Currently, we're at a 485 on the air quality index. Perfect.
Being helpful.
Definitely the hardest part right here. Putting the bump stops on to keep it from smashing the rear axle into everything. Okay, so I was getting this front jack shaft ready to put back in. I was kind of just wiping some of the dirt off it before I stuck it back in there. But one of the reasons why I welded all these sprockets on was the set screws kept coming loose. And apparently this one came loose, and then the chain kind of smacked it and destroyed it. So I'm going to try to dig it out of there. We'll see if I can get it out or not. So the engine is finally reassembled, and I painted the bottom side and everything I can get to with it sitting upside down, because I didn't have any help last night to be able to flip it back over. So we'll be flipping it over, getting the top side painted up, and then it'll be ready to go back in the frame. So we'll get started on that.
We're pretty close to done putting this thing back together. Got all the linkages in. We need to figure out the spaghetti for the wiring, but engine's in. Brake calipers. Spencer's working on the brake lines, so we'll get those in, get the brakes bled, get the front ones put back on. On the final piece of the puzzle. It's almost done.
Well, as you can tell, I caught a cold this week, but the Odyssey is finally done. So it's all completely put back together. Everything's painted up. There's just a couple little things we got to finish, like dump some oil in it and bleed the brakes. But we're going to be full ripping next week. There's not going to be any building in next week's video unless for some reason we break something, but I don't know, it wouldn't be an Odyssey video if we don't break something, right? The front springs, we've never driven it with the new front springs on it, so there's going to be some tweaking there, as well as maybe some tweaking with the rear to try to get it better set up to match the front as well. So we'll be sending it next week. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe button. Stay tuned. We're going to be ripping next week, and then we're going to get started on the trike here soon.